why do we tend to lean to negative language to shape behavior, or negative actions to shape behavior, right? So instead of shaming women, why aren't we encouraging women, right? Because those are going to yield two different outcomes in the way that the message is being told or sold, should I say. So when you encourage a woman to do it, to be married, it's more along the lines of you're teaching them to value it, right? So teaching them to value marriage has a whole different mindset than trying to shame them into doing something, because ultimately what it's doing is it actually impact their own self-value, thinking that they have to be tied to a man in order to be valued, right? To have some value. So that was something that I thought about. And then I just thought that the method matters just as much as the message. So when we look at behavior, just in general, shaping behavior, yes, you can shape behavior with negative actions, but a lot of times those negative actions multiply into something else that's negative, right? And I think that's why now we see all of the toxic interactions that we have with each other in just communicating and talking, because it's such negative language that we have a tendency to use, and we've grown accustomed to that. So I think in order to value something, you need to present it as valuable.
I think that what Ms. Taken said is very, very fruitful. And if I tie it all together in the way it digested in my mind, it's a collaboration. I do think that when there's a speech being delivered by a male, it tends to come across a little bit more abrasive at times. I think that's just sometimes our normal way of communicating. I've talked to women about this. Sometimes you see Hink do it all the time. He jabs at gosh, what's that dude's name? Um, he slipped my mind. Forgive me. But we do it as males, that we'll poke at each other. That's how we show, in a sense, love. And sometimes when we're addressing certain issues, we tend to think about the protection, the preventative measure of something. So I can see how it may come across particularly negative. I do agree that she said that you should work on encouragement, but I think that you have to do both. I think that the shame associated should be that this is what could occur in your life if you don't choose this, if you do this, which could be a certain way of shaming. Also with the encouragement. So I think it's both, honestly. And I land.
Uh, Something too to add to it as well is I think it may be difficult for some folks to shame them because they have convinced themselves that the way that they're living their life and what they're doing is the correct way. Like they don't see anything wrong with it. So you wouldn't be shaming it because they're not gonna because they're no longer viewing it the same way that you do or how majority of people may want to view it. And it's kind of similar to like with men in marriage, right? Like some men just don't see the value in marriage. But folks that believe in marriage, they see the value in it. And so when they're speaking, they speaking so passionate about it, but it's still not registering. Like there are women that have been conditioned to no longer value marriage, to no longer value men, and we see that, right? Well, if they do value men, they only value the man that they chose to be with, and everybody else, like they just don't really see no value in. Or they're preaching a message that men need to do this, men need to do that, but it doesn't transition into their household. So hopefully, I'm making sense of what I'm saying. Is that they're not going to look at it as shame; they're going to look at it as an attack.
So what do y'all mean exactly by shaming? Like,
What I meant by it is that I'll take it off a relationship just for a second. There are certain things that we assume should be met at a certain age. You 18, you should have a driver's license if you live somewhere that allows you to drive. You're 30, you probably should be living on your own to some degree. There is an associated energy societally with shame that if you have not met these markers, something wrong. It's the same thing with relationship. So I think that should still be applied. That this used to happen. You used to go around families. They ask questions. Hey, baby girl, you 32 years old. What happened to Johnny? Like, and on the adverse, it's the same thing. You show up to the family parties every year by yourself, or it's a new girl as a young man. They like, oh, how long y'all been rocking? You gonna marry her? Like, so that could be encouraging, but it could also have some shame applied to it. Yeah.
So
the other thing that I was going to say, which actually ties back, I think, a little bit to your previous question. So both of those kind of tie into each other in regards to something that you said about not being like complete if you're not in a relationship or something like that, something along those lines. Is that I think even that mindset actually encourages or shames women and men maybe into marrying people that they should not be with. Because when you are saying that you are not complete without another person, means that you're seeking somebody to fulfill you, right? It is the assumption that you're not whole without having this other person. And so therefore, in order for you to be complete, you need to find this other person. And so I don't think that that's the messaging. I think part of the messaging around like being alone, like you can be alone but not lonely. Like we've had that conversation before. But marriage is not the completion, right? Getting married isn't the completion, because you can have two broken people that get married, and that marriage is not going to complete what's broken. Right? So you already have to show up whole in a marriage. Now, I do agree with what True Table was saying about marriage does have a tendency to shape you, because you're with someone else that's kind of like a mirror that reflects things that you need to change about yourself. It'll challenge you in areas that you didn't know you need challenging in. But I don't think marriage is the only thing that can do that. All your relationships should be doing that. Like my bestie, she challenges and shapes me in ways that's very different than what my husband might. Or actually, this being on these panels in these spaces is a different kind of relationship, but it has made me think about things very differently. So it's
can I
just
ask you a question?
Let me finish.
My fault.
So I just think that it's relationship in general. Man are not meant to be alone. We are a communal, species, but it does not mean that you need a marriage in order to be complete, because then that says those people who didn't get married are not valuable or they're not complete. And that's not true, right? Their purpose may be very different from yours. And so it doesn't make their purpose any less valuable because their purpose isn't in marriage. If that makes sense. But go ahead, Cora.
No, I was just gonna ask you, then what do women want? If they don't want marriage, if they don't look to family as something to strive for, or as, I don't want to say the end goal, but yeah, the end goal, because from my experience, that's how men look at it. Men look at, all right, bet throughout my life, I'm a accrue these finances, I'm gonna get a better job, I'm gonna get a career so I could eventually have a wife and have some kids. Most men, that's just what we want. That's what we strive for. If that's not what women want, what do y'all want?
Okay, we got some women on the panel. Let's go ahead and ask them. I think that's an excellent question.
Not a single person does not
we
want to
do
get
have
married.
some women that have grown kids. And so if their kids are grown, then what is it that they're looking for? What is it that they want?